Welcome to the Women in Wellness podcast. This is your place to get the latest up-to-date health and wellness information specifically for women, while providing you practical tools you can implement today. I'm Dr. Caitlin Sazowski, and I wanted to personally thank you for spending part of your day with me. Hello, Women and Wellness Tribe. It is Dr. Caitlin, and I am really excited about this conversation today because I have a feeling, and I'm not going to lie, ladies, I think this conversation is going to be more for me than it is for all of you, because none of us push ourselves so far to the limits that we just don't enjoy what we're doing anymore. I know I'm the only one that does that. You guys have heard me talk about how I'm a recovering perfectionist and how that really does me no good in the grand scheme of things. So today, you guys are going to learn a few amazing things, but specifically how we can take our 6 steps, that's hard to say, 6 steps to become a peak performer again without driving ourselves into the ground. So I have with me Sabrina Runbeck, who is a PA, guys, and listen to this. She is a heart and lung surgery. Like, that's what she does. Crazy, crazy, crazy lady who also has a background in neuroscience and public health. This is the crazy part, because I was like, how did you get into this? The queen of performance and productivity, because we all need better productivity in our life with less stress. So thank you so much for being with me today, Sabrina. I appreciate you taking your time to share your knowledge and wisdom with my listeners. How did you get into this? How did you go from neuroscience to PA to, productivity?
Awesome. Thanks, Caitlin, for having me here. And you know what? Thanks, everyone, for joining me and joining us. I know you can be anywhere doing anything. You choose us, and we so appreciate it, because we know you are here opening your heart, opening your ears to something that you wanted to better yourself every day. And despite how much story we can tell, you matters more. And we're just here to assist you and hopefully to light you up a little bit in your life. So I was being in a place, and for all of you, we know when we perform, when we give as women, we have so much we carry on our shoulder. And number one factor when it comes to high performance in and appreciating in your career is actually just that part. Appreciation. A study actually shown that has beat out more pay, more and your bonuses, more autonomy, and even, more of training. So why is appreciation? Why do we even think about performance? Because at the end of the day, you can be doing anything, but how are you sustaining it and heighten what you do, and not just bare boned moving in your day, right? There's a difference between thriving than just surviving. So I was someone who just a normal girl, only child, was family of all my cousins are boys, right? Big family. And my mom...
You poor thing.
My mom used to be a college professor. So my family is always very devoted to training, getting degrees, but they always think, oh, girls, you study well, you get a degree. And once you get a job that you're happy with and you just get married, life is good, right? And somehow we become the caretaker from a culture perspective and from a female role. And we also know nowadays, college degree, more than 50% are women who hold high-level education. But guess what? Specifically in medicine, healthcare, more than 80% are women. Isn't that amazing? But 1 out of 6 are in those high leadership roles of executive, dean of the school. We're no less than any of those male play. So what I felt, why should I take a backseat from all those boys? I'm no less intelligent. So I got myself, when my mom decided she wanted to move to the US, she was one of my role models. She took off. She's like, hey, you know what? Probably my personality, who's always outgoing, who wanted to be VP of social, class president, all that stuff, right? It won't really play so well in the culture of China. She's like, you're gonna be great when you go to US. So she came when she was like in her late 20s. And a few years later, I actually flew myself here. And I had one of those kids package where I just had a flight attendant bring me over. And I somehow, it didn't even faze me how big deal back then it was, right? I don't know anyone. I can barely speak English. And a few years after I got into this role, my mom got into an accident. So that comfort life of just learning the language, go to school is no longer there. I started going to flea market, selling pots and pans, and also trying to figure out who I am as a teenager. And we all know you can be rebellious, you can do anything, you can hide yourself, but I decided just to put myself out there and work. That was one of the beginning part where I felt working hard will get you somewhere. However, what I didn't realize, just work hard, just wearing that busyness as a badge of honor might not get you to the right place. So I did work hard. I got 2 bachelor degrees, 2 masters, finally got my medical degree in PA and got into one of the best well-known hospital in the country and even in the world for heart and lung surgery, because there are people fly internationally to come see us to have surgery. And I thought I made it. Many other people thought I made it, right? And they felt like, oh, Sabrina, you should be relaxed. You should be dialing back. But again, that's other people's expectation, right? And especially when we're in such a competitive nature and field, what do? You want to show up even more. You feel like I have to do what nobody else can. You feel like that controlling, that hypervigilant tendency where you have to be always on. So I was that. I was working more than 80 plus hours a week. And on top of that, taking calls, running on the weekends. It became a never ending loop of the same thing. Yet another day, just get up and go. So one day, it was hardly 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm already exhausted because I took calls again the night before, maybe slept for 4 hours. And it wouldn't been so bad if I have the day off, but I was still going to the hospital. And I remember I had a fever that day, so my body felt that ickiness and cramping. And I was standing in front of my patient with my hands inside his open chest, just trying to stare and concentrate as hard as I can just to get to that procedure. And typically, I'm someone who's listened to music, will chat with people, and really just trying to do what I do and with some enjoyment. And that day I was quiet. So of course people know, Sabrina's quiet, not a good thing. And one of the nurse keep passing Dayquil and cough drop under my mask to keep me going. Well, it doesn't take a medical degree to tell you when you got to stop, your body is forcing you to stop.
Oh, your body's screaming at you at that point.
Oh, heck yeah, right? Screaming. So the next morning when I woke up, just covered with sweat, I can barely get out of bed just to even get a glass of water. And my significant other at the time, he travels for work, so he wasn't even with me. So I finally had to convince myself, I can't do it anymore. I have to stop. So I got on a call, made a call to my boss, like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't come in. I'm still not getting over this fever. It's like, oh, you couldn't tell me this sooner? Like, I can plan this thing. So that felt like first time in my professional life that was a stab in my heart. We push ourselves so far to the extreme, both from family and career. And somehow other people start expecting you to perform at some level that you can't even bring yourself as a human being. You're going to have unpredicted roadblocks and sick days. And then we start saying all these yeses. And they are truly robbing away our precious time, energy, and ultimately sanity. So that's when I start to realizing, you know what? I have to own up to that. I can't just keep complaining about other people can't help me. Things are not working out. I made a decision to be where I am. I can also make a decision to create a better team, to be in a better, more supported area, and to actually understand, why do I work this hard? What do I want to get out of life? So took some step back, right? Went back to my root of neuroscience, public health. Guess what? My thesis was on stress management, music therapy, using hand drum to create more joy out of life. And my thesis for public health was self-efficacy and self-care. How well we can believe our ability to do something, it propagates into multiple things that we can carry out in life. And also spending thousands of dollars and hours learning from other peak performers and neuroscientists, positive psychologists, to truly come up with the simple 6 steps. How do we get to where we want to go? How can we create that internal compass that guides us, that creating ultimate continuous momentum? So we're not just feeling like our emotional joy is like this, right? A big roller coaster, it never stops.
Oh my goodness. You just painted the picture, I think, for most women who they just go and they continuously try and give more from an empty cup because they're never refilling themselves up. Everybody else gets placed first, whether it's their job, their boss, their spouse, their kids, their volunteer commitments, their whatever it may be. And it's always saying, just like you said, not like 2 minutes ago, yes, 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 constantly saying yes to all of these things because we feel that, one, we need to do it, or two, maybe we want to do it to some level, but we just don't know how we're going to fit it into our already jam-packed schedule because we somehow thought we can do all of the things that, our ancestors used to do, which would be, get married, keep the house up, have the kids, raise the kids, do the groceries, do the cleaning, do the cooking. And we're going to compete with all the boys. We're going to go and get those top jobs. We're going to work 80 hours a week, and you literally painted my picture when you're like, I'm not going to let those boys think they're better than me. Oh my goodness, girl, you were talking straight to my heart because that's exactly how I felt. I'm like, forget this noise. I'm just as good as those boys. I'm going to show them that I'm just as smart and I can do the exact same things. But it literally runs us to the ground when we think that we should and can do everything. So how do we get off of that roller coaster? How do we stop overdoing everything and constantly depleting our glasses, meaning ourselves, our energy, our joy, so that we can refill ourselves and truly enjoy this life for what it is? Because we only have this one life, and it's not a very long life. Honestly, even when we think like 90 years, that's still not very long. What are the steps? How do we get out of this roller coaster, Sabrina?
Amazing. I think sometimes we feel like we're superwomen and we somehow can just transform into where we need to be. The number one step I always say is, let's redefine your motivation so we can create your ideal lifestyle, right? The most common question we always being asked is, what do you do? Right? When we're younger, people ask, what do you want to do when you grow up? Nowadays, we introduce ourselves. It becomes, hey, what's your name? What do you do? Somehow that doing part is our identity. That's more like you're putting a stereotype on that person or even on yourself, like our caps of bing, bing, bing. This is my job title. This is what I do.
And therefore, this is who I am.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, have we ever thought about what is that person's interest, their passion, who they are, right? So the number one thing I have, even with all my clients, we go in deep. We do a 100-question deep dive into all 10 key components of life because we want to know what can we leverage on, do more of, because that's already supporting us. And but what are these hidden roadblocks that are in the lurking, in the shadow? We don't even think they're a problem. But guess what? Life, everything is intertwined, right? But if we don't know how we want it to live, all the doing part will never lead you to that. It's just like people, trying to, little bunny digging holes, right? Like, oh, maybe there's a carrot. Oh, maybe there's a well. Oh, maybe this is that. And then you keep doing so much, digging all the holes, but it's superficial level, and you never go down deep enough to actually search for what you want. So number one is paint a big picture of what you want out of life. How do you want to live? Who do you want to spend time with what type of people? And how would you feel when you get to that point? Right? We're also emotional well-beings. When we tap into our senses, our emotion, that limbic part of us, now we can remove ourselves from such a logical decision sense of the prefrontal lobe. So that means we actually want to enjoy, because happiness is happiness, achievement is achievement. They're separate things. Don't tie into what you're doing, what you can accomplish into that means happy. Oh. No, right? And the moment of now is happy, is a choice. So once we can paint a big picture, now what? We have to sustain them. We have to create number two.
Can we take 1 second with number one? Because I think it's so important. You said something, and just tell me if I'm hearing you properly. What we do doesn't always necessarily link back to what makes us happy and joyful. We don't have to connect those all the time, meaning our accomplishments should not be the only thing that drives our purpose and our joy and our happiness. Is that, did I hear you right? Or am I?
Yeah, yes, you're so right, because life mission in itself is a pillar of, and your career achievement is separate. And your mental well-being and physical, that's also different, right? They are intertwined, but they shouldn't be only if I live up to my mission, that means I'm successful. Only if I created something that I can feel secure, that validated, that I'm happy. No, there are individual things that are connecting to each other, but they shouldn't be only if you get to some point, only if I finish my PhD, only if I can get a promotion, then I feel better about myself, or being validated, or someone else will see me actually achieving.
Perfect. Awesome. Super. Thank you for wrapping number one up. So what is number two? Because I'm like dying to hear this.
Yes. So our number two is, if you know what you want, would you not want to rebuild and continue create that momentum, keep going? Because so many of us, what we tend to do is we have all these project business ideas, right? We want to dive in because it's like that shiny object, right? Like it's exciting, it's great. And but once we dive into something, it becomes your new baby, something you really wanted to make a good, awesome. Can you sustain it? Right? And if we start doing 7 days a week, or putting so much time and energy into that one thing, we think that will give us success. We already failed in most of the time, right? There's physically impossible for us just to be happy all the time, exciting all the time, until you build some energy and momentum. So how do we do that? Is by constantly repeating to us, reaffirming to us, what is our why, our goal, and who are the people that you need to show up to, right? Is that you're working for your family, your significant other, your kids, your or even the people that you help? There's a specific group of people that your knowledge, your energy, your community really need you, right? Let's go back to that, because life is hard. It's difficult for us to be on all the time, and we don't need to be, right? So the momentum part is so crucial.
It is. So how do we get momentum without reverting back to that, that's the only thing we focus on, or, tying our worthiness to whatever that new thing is. So how do we keep those two separate?
Yes. So one of the exercises that a lot of my clients really enjoy to do is I give them a burnout bulletproof alignment worksheet. So they would do this on a weekly basis, right? So first, it ties to our first step. Let's validating how do we want to show up? What are my core values? Only pick 3, right? Don't overwhelm yourself for this week. And so then we also know if anything come to us, whether it's from internal and external expectation, it doesn't align with what we wanted, how it would naturally rise up, then we will say no, because no is a perfect sentence. No, one of my friends even said that means a new opportunity, right? The more no we can say, that means you're going to say heck yes to the only things that truly light you up. So that's where we build momentum, is reassess what do we want as an individual, and how do I show up to the people. Now you start identifying the people that generate, right? And so you are separating different components of, now it's me, but I also know there are other people rely on me. I also know I'm not going to be the best, but what are the skills I need to tap into, maybe go deeper this week, and connect to who should I need to be growing with. And people are what we can create energy, right? So once you break that down, you're also going to set what is a one self-care thing. I always think about self-care. Some people think it's too broad, but it's something specific that you can actually do for yourself just this week to reward yourself. When we don't give ourselves enough reward, then we lose momentum. We want to procrastinate. It's either too hard, or we don't think we're good enough to do. We lose the confidence, or we feel like, oh, despite how much we're doing, it's going to be too slow. But if you set a smaller win and you can reward yourself more often, then you're more likely to keep going as well.
Well, I love it. And I think what you were saying too is we have to be able to set healthy boundaries around what it is that we're doing. So, I'm a people pleaser. I like to say yes. If I think that that's going to make you happy and it's going to make you like me more, in the past, I would have said yes to pretty much everything. I would have dropped what I was doing to accommodate you. And that actually doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do the person that I'm saying yes to any good, because I'm not showing up as my best self. It's not doing me any good because I'm taking on too much. So my stress level is going up, and, my feeling of accomplishment and my self-worth is going down. So being able to set healthy boundaries and say no is important. But then, like you said, when you are presented with something, say heck yes, hell yeah, like yes, that's exactly what I want to do, is so important. Love it. Oh my goodness. What is number 3?
And you actually start leading into number 3. Number 3 is reboot our mental immunity. So in positive psychology, we also talk about what your success is not just the degrees, the IQ, EQ, right? The more knowledge, experience we have, that's just part of you. And just like the famous book author, Napoleon Hill, he also said, knowledge is not power until you use it, and until you use it correctly. All these things, right? Nowadays, everyone's saying, oh, I can just listen to new podcasts and read another book. I love learning. Just give me another course. Okay. Such a great student. I'm proud of you. But how are you use it, right?
Oh my goodness, that is me.
And then even we start adopting in this, what is going to happen? Why are we still having emotional roller coaster? Is that part where Dr. Kayla even mentioned, she is a pleaser. That's one of the 9 sabotaging tendency, right? And we talk about pleasing as women, we're in the place of, I feel like I should be taking care of things, Therefore, I want to help you. I want to make sure I'm proactive, serving you. But then you're missing a whole part of self-identity in what do
Mhm.
you want? How are you doing? When you do this thing, what do you have to give up? Are you
Mhm.
willing to accept the consequence of that? Right? So that's a big part. Another big part for us for sabotaging tendency is judgment. We're
Oh
so
my goodness.
critical, right? And I
We're
even
so
remember,
judgy of other women.
like, it's not even, I think this behavior came into when we're even younger, right? The competitiveness you're feeling.
Mhm.
Even when I was in high school, I remember going into a AP calculus class. I was already chatting with my friends, right? You're sitting down. My seat is very warm, and the teacher is already passing out the quiz we had the week before. Now I'm like, ooh, stop, palpitation, right? Hands sweating. Oh my God, I remember I'm not doing so well on that quiz because there are a bunch of questions. I'm like, not sure what I'm doing. And before I saw my score, I'm already criticizing myself, right? Like
Mhm.
all the if, could, I should. And once I
Mhm.
saw that, right, big round circle, I start bawling. And now my friends like, what the heck is going on, right? And they're thinking I must have plummeted. And so guess what the score I got?
What'd you get? An A minus?
I got an 82. So, but for some reason at that point, we always felt like, especially when you're in high school, right? And oh, if I don't get A's, how am I gonna get into college? And I'm not gonna get into the place I wanted to be, right? And so for a lot of people, they're like, oh, okay, B minus, big deal, right? Like you clearly just one quiz, one exam, you can overcome that. But we say it now, but at the time, I'm just like a little bunny, like trying to jump all over the place, feeling like I'm such a crazy person because we never learned self-empathy. We
Mhm.
never learned to not judge ourselves because when we do that, even nowadays, right? In grad school, I remember things start becoming bell curve. One, my friend was crying because she was just right under the bell, right under the median. And we start feeling like we're no good unless we have a score or title attached to us. And when we're so judgmental to ourselves, guess what you're doing to everybody else? You are naturally judging,
Mhm.
endless of judgment. And so
Mhm.
why would anybody want to be in that stressful, critical environment, right? And that's why you also mentioned being a professionalism.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
The sense
People
of,
pleaser, perfectionist. I got all the good qualities that every woman wants, let me tell you.
but at the end of the day, those are tendencies. They are
Mhm.
not who we are. It's just a part of what our behavior, what our years of training and feeling like this is what we have to do, right?
Right.
And if we recognize that, awesome. But if we only recognize that we don't know how to pivot and remodulating out to those empowerment state, guess what? We're still stuck. But if
Mhm.
we just know how to activate ourselves, innovate, be creative, more empathetic, right? Just practicing is not enough because what? Your sabotaging tendency gonna drag you down. So we need both. We need to recognize and be honored to our emotions, knowing this is it, but I'm not gonna judge myself for doing this. I recognize it. So let me pivot out into what can I do next? Can I when I have a difficult conversation with someone, if that person is a 5-year-old, would your perspective change? How
Oh.
different could you think about that situation, right?
Mhm.
And so if we can retrain our brain, and that's why even with my client, we have an app, one my professor as ever, we train ourselves with these 2 or 5 minute exercise, right? And then we can really put ourselves into that ease, no longer struggling. And really, we are our biggest enemy. So stop doing that, right? Let's do something about it. Let's put ourselves into more a master our psychology.
So, how do we break the cycle of self judgment? Because honestly, I have never met a single woman or a single person for that matter who doesn't criticize themselves, who is not 100 times harder on themselves than they would be on anybody else. Not to mention like the negative self-talk and all of those things that we do that, you know, beat us down. How do we break that from being our continuous habit?
It's such an amazing question. I think it's one of probably the most difficult thing to do, right? And because judging, we recognize we're just gonna judge. It's part of the influence of how we grew up, how society and all the right and wrong is only in your own head, right? So if we just recognizing that and then we say, oh, I'm doing that. Now, actually, what do? You just stopped, right? You're aware, you stopped. And now we do is doing an exercise to try to stop yourself having these mental chatter coming to you, right? And we also know these mental chatter means you have about 40 to 80 million thoughts that's bombarding your head every single day. And more than 80% of those are from the day before. How can we stop judging or stop doing anything that's bad for us if we're constantly being bombarded and not even allow our brain to shut down? Many people come to me and they're like, well, I think I'm keeping everything in flow, but I can't even sleep because I'm just thinking too much. I'm waking up 4 o'clock in the morning because I have all these ideas. I have my project I need to work on. I just couldn't even fall back to sleep. So how about we do a reset, right? So one thing that we can really do a quick exercise if we have time today is to realize your breathing, your body, your alignment of your thoughts, and then pivot into an emotional state, into a sense, right? All our 5 sense visualization is very distracting. So I always suggest on smell, on touch, on hearing, right? On even taste. Can you redirect your focus into something else that become a pleasure on highlighting, bring yourself back to the center, right? And then guess what? You become more focused, more energized, more calm and present to think about how you want to deal with this situation instead of our fight and fly and froze response, right? Do I need to do something now? Oh my God, I don't know. How am I going to do this? Oh, and then the first thing is we're criticizing ourselves, right? Once we get off that sad train and play the victim card for a long time, now what, right? So we have to reset ourselves. So that also lead into the 4th step is regroup your energy, because no matter how much productivity tips we can learn, without the right energy, we won't do anything whatsoever. And bless you. And Dr. Mark Hyman talked about there are 4 different energy cycles in our life, right? You have the early bird, the midday bear, the night wolves, and then people who are insomnia, they're dolphins. No matter how much they sleep, they never stop. So if we know the natural energy flow, and on top of that, reset ourselves, right? And what I call then the mini mental vacation. So we are going to have to do something. One of the exercises I typically talk about and show people is what I described earlier. Use our 5 senses. And a nurse that I spoke to and show her the training, she actually just came off a 12-hour shift and we did a workshop together. And she told me she feels like, Sabrina, I can go on for another 12 hours. I'm like, that's amazing, but you probably wanted to sleep, right? But how amazing would it be if you incorporate this during your work hours or incorporate on your family time so you don't feel drained? You constantly be able to reboot and put yourself into that better state. So you're so intentional and be on your A game, not just being drained to your last bit and giving what's left of you, not your best, right? So
Love it.
So crucial. And since we don't have much time, if you wanted to just listen to the exercise, you can go to sabrinarunbeck.com/energy to grab that free audio exercise. And
Perfect. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes, ladies, so that you can go listen to how to reset your energy, reboot yourself so you can go for another 12 hours. But I don't recommend you do that. You gotta
no,
rest, gotta sleep.
gotta see.
But that is a really good pick me up for those moments where we're just feeling drained. Awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. And then next is what we wanted to do, what we love to do, not just our obligation. How do we do that? It's recognizing that productivity means so much, right? It means heighten your performance and sustain there. So that means to be free. What does that freedom mean to you? Is that time? Is that location? Or is this overall stress free? Right? And that means we have to do things both what we love, being in the flow, and what we're really good at. When we're just doing what we love, but we're not really good at, guess what? They're distractions. They're not going to get you ever to where you need to be. And if we're doing things that we just love, what we're just good at because someone else told us we're good at, or you feel like it come easy to you, but eventually without the natural innate joy, it becomes disinterest. It's gonna pull you down from your high momentum train, and you're gonna feel like life is not really satisfying, right? So we have to mirror both. And that means that doing an exercise to identify both. And when it's just one or the other, you have to learn to eliminate, delegate, or automate. And that's we can be free. That's the focus funnel that I talk to a lot of people about. How
Oh
do
my
you
goodness.
identify that?
Delegate. I think we all need to learn how to delegate out things that tie us down, that don't bring us joy, and that somebody else can do so we can focus on the things that we're good at and love to do. I got to be a better delegator.
Right. And that also means one of the sabotaging tendency we have is control. If we delegate out and we don't know how exactly people are going to do it, then maybe they won't get to the perfect thing that we want to put out, right? And it just needed to be more comfortable. And that means finding out certain people, connect with them, knowing what they are really good at and what they love to do. So when you have that mutual trust, you will create something beautiful, right? And that's how we can create more output with less input, right? So
Love it.
after that, guess how we wrap up the boat of being a high performer is influence. I truly believe it's not about learning more leadership models, but how you connect with people. There are ways we naturally attract people to us, the talent, the good vibes, right? There are 5 ways versus 6 ways we accidentally diminishing those around us. So we need to keep the good people in our corner and actually say no to the people that are just not right for us.
Oh, so true. And this is why I talk about having a tribe of women who are striving for similar things, where you can support, not judge, not compare, because everybody's at a different place in that journey. If we're going to be talking about health, because that's mostly what I talk about here. But it's hard to do. It is really hard. And when I use the term recovering perfectionist, I don't think I'm ever going to be a non-perfectionist, but it's a journey. And at least I now recognize when I'm going into those tendencies, just like Sabrina said. So I can recognize, take a moment, take a step back and figure out, okay, is it really important that it be done this way? Or can it be done this way and it's still going to be just as good, just fine, and I don't have to stress about it? So what are your final thoughts for women to be able for them to live that joyous, happy, fulfilled life? What is the one thing they can do today that's going to set them on at least the right trajectory to achieving that happy, fulfilled, joyous life?
Yes, thank you so much for asking that question. I feel like we are all born happy. We're born unique. So that's what we're born with, is that joy. And we choose to live into something that we struggle by society, by outside. So if the default nature of us is good, is the good vibes and joy and happiness, then we should be able to say no to just about everything. So then you can say, heck yes, to the only things that truly light you up in life.
Oh, I love it. Women, you have permission to say no. Say no to picking up your kids' socks. Say no to having to cook and wash the dishes. I'm actually really good at that. That is a rule in my house. If I cook, I don't clean.
Yeah.
But saying no, but then saying yes to those things that you really, really do want to do. I think that's so important. All right. So Sabrina, before I have you tell my viewers where to find you, how to follow you, I want to ask you a few fun questions just to get to know you at a little bit more of a personal level and not just a professional one. What is your favorite beverage?
Oh, Syrah, red wine.
You like a little bit of a drier wine as well.
Yeah, full body.
Mm-hmm. I agree. If I'm going to have a glass of wine, I want to be able to taste it. I want it to be bold. What is your favorite food?
Mediterranean.
What would be the one dish that you just can't say no to Mediterranean wise?
Oh, I like quail.
Whale?
Quails.
Oh, quail. I was like, whale. Oh, that's new.
Hard to get to.
Okay. Quail. I don't know that I've ever had quail. I might have to try that.
They're small birds and tender.
They are very small. It's like, is it similar to like New Guinea hen kind of thing? Like the really small, tender.
Yeah, like a dense meat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What is on your night side table?
Is typically it's my diffuser. So I put essential oils in there and make it all smell good, relax with lavender, mint, and some other herbs that I put together.
Nice. Me too. I turn my diffuser on every night before bed. And then last question. What is your favorite like pick me up song if you're like, I just gotta like get myself out of this funk. I want to feel good. I want to just, seize the day. What song do you turn on?
Right now I'm picturing Katy Perry's Firework.
There you go. She has some good songs that like pick me up. That's my 6-year-old niece's favorite artist right now. So she always has it blaring in the background whenever I'm trying to talk to her. Perfect. Thank you so much for spending time with us. How can my listeners find you?
I'm very active on Instagram and LinkedIn, and my handle just my full name. Really, you can find any social media under Sabrina Runbeck. And for anybody who wanted to have a deeper dive into these 6 steps and to see if I can even be a resource to create that blueprint for you to become a peak performer again, you can go to sabrinarunbeck.com/blueprint. I actually have a summary of a Fox News segment that I did. And also you can find a calendar to see if we can have a conversation and to be chat with you. I only do 3 calls a week. So whatever works in your corner. And if I can add value to you, I'll be it. Otherwise, let's enjoy a fun chat.
Awesome. All right, ladies. We all got some work to do, but it all starts with saying more no's and more yeses to the things that we love. So here's to becoming peak performers in a healthy, happy, joyous way. Thanks so much for being with me. And I look forward to seeing you ladies next week on the Women in Wellness. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Women in Wellness as much as I did. If you did, please leave a review and a rating so that others can also benefit from the information being shared. Make sure to subscribe as new content is released on Women in Wellness Wednesdays. And if you want to connect with us, go online to womeninwellness.com. That's women, the letter N, wellness.com. I look forward to seeing you next time.